Hey, what's up? You are tuned in to the Thunderhead show on MetalDevastationRadio.com. I'm happy to be here with Fredrik, the guitarist from Opeth, rock metal icons from Stockholm, Sweden. How you doing?
Good. How are you doing? Thanks for having me on the show.
You're very welcome. Where are you guys located? I know you guys are just starting your tour, so what's going on with Opeth right now?
Yeah, we're just setting all the stuff up. We kind of stepped up with the production on this tour, so we have a lot of screens, and like we put Axe, our drummer, in the center for once, which I think is great because it's kind of fun to look at while he's playing. So we had bigger, taller riser with screens beneath it, and it started to look pretty cool. It's a lot of cool footage that we're going to use, and spend quite a lot of money on the light and the show. So it's an exciting day for us, you know. We're about to do sound check in an hour, so we're gonna get to do like 2-hour sound checks a week.
So that's awesome. Where are you guys playing tonight?
We're playing in the UK in Norwich. So this is the first gig, yeah. And tomorrow, on Monday, we play in London. The Palladium in London. So yeah, just kicking off. So it's a bit nervous, but also we're quite excited, you know, to do a new headline tour with a new album and everything. It feels fresh when you get to play new songs, and we also changed up the set list. There's a lot of old school stuff in there we haven't played for a long time. So I think it's a really cool set list we came up with.
That's cool. Now, can you give us a brief history of Opeth for the, listeners who are just learning about you and listening to the station today?
Well, the band was founded in 91, but I believe the first album, I wasn't in the band at that time, it came out in 94. It was called Orchid. And from that time up to now, this is the 13th album we're releasing now. That's called Incauda Venenum. And, Opeth was a progressive death metal band. I guess you could say that. It's quite experimental. It's a lot of long songs with lots of different riffs and soundscapes, different landscapes of different sounds. Everything from more acoustic parts, Space Pink Floyd parts, more intense death metals and growls. And later, the latest 4 albums, it's more like the hard rock, more progressive heavy hard rock. We haven't recorded the growls on these previous 4 albums, but we do it a lot live. Like 60% we play the old stuff. And it's, Michael Åkesson, he always tried to do something different, and that's why we haven't recorded like those more extreme vocals on the later albums. But we do it live, and we try to experiment a lot, and we try to do something fresh every time we put out a new album.
That's cool. Now, who's in the current lineup of Opeth?
The current lineup, I've been in the band for soon 13 years. So I joined the band at an album called Watershed. And it's me, my name is Fredrik Åkesson, and we have the drummer Martin Axelrod. And we have the bass player Martin Mendes. And, of course, Michael Åkerfeldt, lead singer, and also plays guitar. And writes the majority of the Opeth stuff since day one. And also have Joachim Svalberg playing keyboards.
Now,
we're not like David Roth or anything. We don't do any like karate kicks and stuff like that, but who knows, maybe someday.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, probably just fall off stage, break my neck or something.
Nah, you don't want to do that.
No.
I do have a question from one of our listeners. They'd like to know the history behind the band name, and why did you decide to choose the name Opeth?
Well, as far as I know, Opeth is a fictional name. It's from a book called City of the... Or actually, it means something in a book. The meaning in this book is City of the Moon. But also I found out there's an ancient pyramid that's actually called Opeth, but with a slightly different spelling. But, originally it came from this particular book, which I can't remember what it's called right now, but... Sorry, but City of the Moon, it's a fictional name. That's the meaning of the book.
Now, what have you learned over the years? You've been with the band for quite a long time, and what have you learned about being in a band, and what have some of your struggles been?
Well, luckily enough, we get along very well, which is, of course, very important when you travel together and you're in a tour bus in this tiny place, and if you have like massive egos or people who can't behave, have some issues or whatever, it will affect the entire creativity and the mood set of everybody. So we get along very well, and I think that's a good start, if you want to be continuous with the band. And we play a lot, we tour a lot, and we love to play music, and we love to try to, everybody's, as an individual player, always try to step up the game, and it's kind of between albums, everybody's working with their stuff, and then hopefully you get some more, basically, hopefully you step up a little bit, which you can incorporate in for next album cycle and stuff like that. We always try to improve ourselves, put it that way. I think that's very important. If you just in it for like a business thing, it has to be, it has to put some heart in it, basically.
And it's probably a lot of hard work. You have to work hard in order to get what you would like out of the band. Yeah,
definitely. But it's also very fun, and we're privileged to be able to do this as a living. It's still something. When you were a kid, you practice a lot, and the main goal was just to be able to live off playing music and focus on one band mainly, which we get to do. And it's, sometimes you have to pinch your arm and wake up and like really appreciate what you got. And
now that you do a lot of touring and you've been just about everywhere, how did you write the 13th album and get it all situated in between touring?
We had a bit of a break. I mean, we played maybe 13 festivals this summer, and apart from that, we almost had a break of touring in an entire year. But during that year, we also Michael wrote the album basically, and we also recorded the album in Stockholm for once.
Cool.
So now we're feeling pretty hungry, to get this touring, get into the touring mode, which is great. We had the privilege to be able to take a longer break, which was good, because then we don't wear out the band. You say that? Wear out? You just do it all the time. I think the breaks are important to make it interesting for the people who enjoy Opeth, and also for ourselves.
That brings me to another question. This is coming from Cliff Scowen. He lives actually in the UK, and he wanted to know, was the switch from growl to clean vocals a conscious thing?
I think so. It was, it's really up to Michael, when we did, after the Watershed album, we did an album called Heritage, and like the first demos out of that album were with the growls, and then I think it was Martin Mendes who said something like, we have to try to do something different, because I think Michael kind of took that extreme screaming thing. He sort of took it to a peak when we did the Watershed album, and the band basically just needed to do something different. So it was a conscious step, but as I mentioned earlier, we still do it live, and we love to play that era live. I mean, a lot of people, can't you do another Blackwater Park? But that's not really what Opeth is about. We always try to do something different, and who knows for the future? I mean, it's not rolled out, but still, like the foundation of the Opeth sound, those more extreme stuff, and it's something we definitely don't shy away from, especially live. But Michael is a very artistic person, and if somebody tells him to do something, he will do the opposite. So usually I don't mention it to him.
That's why his name is Michael. Most Michaels do that.
Is that right? Okay.
All right, we're going to check out a track off your new album, In Cauda Venenum. We're going to check out Dignity. Let's crank it up. All right, that was Dignity. That is just such a unique track. Can you tell us about that, please?
Yeah, it's the opening track of the album, and we're going to play it live tonight. And I like it. It reminds me a bit of old school Opeth, the beginning riffs. And it has a speech about New Year's Eve that's in Swedish before this guitar solo kicks in that I do. And I really like the doomy ending. It's very like doom metal-y, Sabbath heavy. It's kind of I think it's pretty sinister. The lyrics is pretty evil in the meaning of them. About different stuff.
And actually, that was the opening track. So I'm going to go right now into the one that's following it. Here is Heart in Hand. Let's crank it up. Hell yeah. I actually wanted to put those two together during this interview, and that was my bad. But I can understand why you would have an opener for this track, because this track is really good.
Yeah, I mean, that was the first track we released as a YouTube video, like a teaser for the new album. And I like that track. It's a lot of guitar riffing, and I'm a guitar nerd, and I love guitar riffs. So it's pretty metal to me. I mean, it's not new metal, but we're not into that stuff. But classic metal stuff, it's quite progressive. I mean, the ending is quite psychedelic. It's kind of messy, a lot of oscillating and echoes and stuff going off. And then we have this calm, beautiful end of the song. And it's a track we're going to play live tonight as well, and we're rehearsing quite a lot, and I think it's going to be a great live track, actually.
That's cool.
And I get to do a shredded solo in it, and I'm happy with that. It's always fun to play solos.
Yeah, just don't do any flips off the stage tonight, okay?
No. I'll make sure that won't happen. Yeah.
Now, I hear so many different influences in your music from beginning to end. Who are some of your personal influences?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Well, I grew up with a new wave of British metal, basically, like Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Saxon, Motorhead, and also like the Rainbow era with Ronnie James Dio. I was a big fan of that, and Black Sabbath and the classic stuff, Deep Purple and all that stuff, and also, of course, like the thrash metal when that came out, and the death metal, like Metallica, Slayer, Morbid Angel, and Megadeth, stuff like that. But also, like the prog stuff, I was at an early age very into Rush, for instance, and with King Crimson, Pink Floyd, and yeah, stuff like that.
Did you ever play any other instruments?
When I was a kid, I started playing the violin, and it was right when I got into hard rock. I think I was 8 years old, and me and my buddy were playing the Breaking the Law riff by Judas Priest on the violin, and this teacher got pissed off with us, and it felt rebellious. But I wasn't happy with the sound of it. I mean, to enjoy a violin, you have to be really good at it, and it can be really terrible if somebody plays it and doesn't know what they're doing. It's just something that, yeah, it kind of scratches your nerves in a very not so good way.
I can imagine. I tried to play the flute in high school. That didn't work out.
It didn't. Okay. Oh, guitar was more interesting to me. You know, it was mainly because I saw Angus Young and Ace Frehley when I was a kid. And then I got into other players like Michael Schenker, Gary Moore, and Eddie Van Halen, and you know, the list goes on and on. Uli Roth, Frank Marino.
Now, I do have another question from one of our listeners, Chris Denise. He would like to know, how was it to tour with Dream Theater, as that's his favorite band?
It was cool. I mean, we did tour this Progressive Nation, both in the States and also in Europe with Dream Theater, and that tour did good for us as well. They were nice dudes, and we got to play in front of bigger crowds. It was like an arena tour. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people when we play in America now that come up, oh, we discovered you when you were on the Dream Theater tour, and we, you know, so it was a cool experience, and we got to play at least an hour and 15 minutes, so it was, since some of our songs is 13, 14 minutes long, so we could at least play 3 songs or something.
That's cool.
5. Yeah.
Now, I know you've traveled all over the world. Where have you not traveled so far that you'd like to travel to and play?
We haven't played in Africa. We were asked to play in Greenland recently.
Oh, that's sweet.
And we figured we have to do that, but it's kind of tricky to get there with the gear and stuff. But we were initially not going to make any money out of it, but we felt like we'll have to just take it off the bucket list, basically.
I've heard.
But the promoters suddenly disappeared, so that didn't happen. But we played once at the Maldives, the island, which was quite rare, and that was pretty awesome. Actually, we got to. Usually, you don't get much time to see stuff, but that time around, we got to spend a couple of days in this beautiful island, and watched tiny little baby sharks in the water and stuff like that. So it was fantastic.
That's cool.
But on this tour, soon in the fall, we're going to go to China, and we're going to play in India as well, which we don't do that often. So that's going to be a bit different.
And I saw you played in Russia and all these other wonderful places. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic that there's an interest. I mean, we get to go to all these places, and it's a nice variation going to different countries, of course.
All right, we're going to play another track here from Inacata Venenum. Here we go with Charlatan. Crank it up.
Finns det bara en gud?
Nej.
Hur många finns det?
30 miljoner 100 000-tals.
Oj.
En i varje land.
Okej. Kan de prata med varandra?
Nej. Han kan flyga bara.
Folk säger, han vakar.
Med bil.
Det finns inget rätt eller fel. Det finns inget rätt eller fel. Det finns inget rätt eller fel. Vad tror du händer när man dör?
Jag tror väl mest att man ligger kvar på sin gravplats typ.
All right, that was just Charlatan. When I first listened to that, I had to listen to it again, actually, because there's some differences in there, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's a bit different for us. One thing that some people might not know about this track is that it's actually no guitars on it. So Martin Nellis plays the regular bass, so to speak, and me and Michael's playing like left, right, extremely distorted bass guitars. And the reason why that is we didn't want it to sound like a nu metal kind of thing. So this made the bass sound more grittier. And they actually blew up the guitar amp when we did it, so I had to change the amp. But it sounds kind of extreme, actually. And it's pretty fun to play it on bass. So if you play it live, we have to bring out bass guitars, which is like a bit of a stretch. But it's a cool track. It has some cool topics, and there's also my daughters on it, talking in Swedish. They're spinning off some different questions. Her instant replies, and also Michael's two daughters is also on it, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it is very cool. I was going to say, I also like the fact that this album is in both Swedish and English. I think that's very cool. I'm interested in hearing the Swedish lyrics, actually. I enjoy that.
Yeah, this particular track, we had some different speeches and stuff on the demo version, and it was more aimed about, it was really about psychopaths, basically. So we had like the one, this man murderer woman, you know, that there's a movie about called Monster. She was in it, and some other people. So it was kind of a mix with English-speaking and Swedish-speaking people. This doctor talking about psychopaths, but we weren't allowed to use it. So it's the final version is kind of more of a little think about different religious beliefs and stuff like that.
Now I have another question here from our listener, Damien Chaos. He's actually a DJ here. Do you know Eric Carlson of the San Jose Sharks, since he is a huge metalhead and you're both from Sweden?
Oh, unfortunately, no. We don't know him, but hopefully we'll run into him someday.
Okay, cool. And one more question.
I didn't know he was a big metal fan.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't know that. We were talking about it the other day, and a lot of people were surprised. Question.
That's great.
Yeah. So who writes
the world needs more metalheads.
Metalhead Unite.
Yeah.
Who writes your music and the lyrics?
Michael writes the music and the lyrics. We have written a few tracks together since I joined the band, like 3 tracks over the years, but Michael's always been the creative pilot, you know, and I think everybody writes their kind of drum fills and bass licks and guitar. I write my guitar solos and stuff like that, so everybody contributes, but Michael is really the main songwriter, and he's written all the lyrics in Opeth since day one, I would say.
Wow, that's
since
cool.
First album. Yeah.
Nice. Now, what kind of gear do you guys use on stage? You know, your guitar gear and amps and things like that?
I'm using PRS guitars, and also Michael does that. And they're fantastic. They've been great to us. And we also use these kind of P8s to pick up, because we're going from like a heavy riff into this suddenly a finger-picking acoustic part, and it has to go. These changes are very quick, so we use these piezo pickup in these guitars, which works pretty cool to get the more authentic acoustic tone. And amp-wise, right now we're starting to use a Californian brand called Synergy amps, which is great. It's different modules that the actual amp builders make, so you can customize your own tone, and it's all tube. We're not big fans of the digital solution that many people go with. It's great, but I like the proper tube amps. But we've also been using Marshall, and we have the Marshall's JVMs as well. And with pedals and stuff, we use a lot of Dunlop and MXR stuff. Everything from Echoes to the Phase 90 and wall pedals. And we're using Klotz cables. And I play DR strings, and Michael is playing in Tomastic strings from Austria, I believe.
That's really
and
cool.
We use Dunlop picks. I might have forgot something there, but that's like foundation of it. Yeah.
That's real cool. Now, I know I'm not a musician, but what does it feel like being on stage as Opeth?
It's great. It's fun, you know. I before Opeth, I was in a band called Arch Enemy, and the transition was pretty weird because that was very intense. And Michael has a more laid-back stage persona. He's more. Sometimes he's almost like a bit of a stand-up comedy guy, and he doesn't have a script. He just spins off, and sometimes it's extremely funny, and sometimes he kind of I'm starting to look at my watch, even though I don't carry a watch. So it was very different, but it's cool, you know. It's pretty relaxed, and I enjoy it very much. I think everybody loves it because it's a lot of different layers within the music, and that keeps it interesting. Like going from more aggressive death metal stuff to finger-picking soft acoustic stuff to prog rock or whatever. It's fun to play, you know.
And I can imagine all the times you've toured around, you know, you've learned different ways while you're being on stage and stuff. And what's a typical set list like for you guys when you're touring?
A set list?
Yeah, the tunes you're going to play out when you're live. Do you switch it up?
I mean, it's difficult now since many of the songs are very long, and we've released 13 albums. So initially you want to play one song at least from every album, and of course maybe 3 songs or 4 from the one you're out promoting, the new one, which is also more fun to play because you haven't played that before. And but right now, before every album, we really take the time to look back what we played on the previous tours, and we trying to switch out as many songs as possible. Some songs like this track called Deliverance, which is a favorite of many Opeth fans, it's a very good ending track that we usually keep. It's like our Smoke on the Water or something like that.
Cool.
But we really try to mix up the set list, and tonight we have the premiere of the new tour, and we're playing some stuff we haven't played in a long time, and it's pretty intense, all heavy stuff.
I hope your show is killer tonight. It's going to be awesome, I can bet.
Thank you. Fingers crossed.
All right, we're going to check out your last track. Here's Next of Kin. Crank it up.
Every morning.
All right, that was Opeth and then Next of Kin. What an awesome track. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you. It's a lot of stuff that will just have to fit in the sound frame of that track. It has like heavy guitars. It has string section. Dave Stewart, not the guy from Eurythmics, another Dave Stewart who was in a prog band called Egg in the 70s. He worked with us on the album Pale Communion, and he recorded, I think it was a 23-piece orchestra with strings on this track, and it has like mellotrons and Hammonds and Hammond organ pedals, and the goal with this track was to make a very epic track, heavy epic tracks, and we rehearse it quite a lot now, and it's quite difficult to put it off live. Actually, we're close. We're supposed to play it tonight, but we'll probably play it a couple of shows into the tour. It's tricky. It has a lot of different sections, and the ending is pretty heavy. And it has, for us, me and the keyboard player, we get to sing a lot in this track as well. So it's a lot of vocal stuff to think about, and screams and harmonies and lots of stuff going on. Hope people will enjoy it. But it's one of the more epic tracks on the new album, I would say.
What's your favorite track on the new album?
It's really difficult to say because they're all quite different, I would say. It's the album is thought about something you should listen from the start to the end. It has a sequence. It's thought about behind the sequence of the album. But it kind of varies. One of my first favorite was Hard in Hand, but now it's probably this one you guys just played. Yeah.
Now, when you're playing out live and everything, have you ever had something like epic happen? It's like, well, I know you said earlier you blew up some amps, but I didn't know if you guys had anything else that had occurred on stage while playing out live. Yeah,
one we played with Dream Theater down in Florida, and me and Michael and Martin Mendes were standing in the front, rocking out basically, and suddenly we saw the crowd's faces like, ooh! We were like, what the hell was that? And we looked back, and then the fire curtain had dropped down, which was super heavy. This was like an arena gig, and smashed one of the guitars in the guitar boat. And if we would have been 1 meter backwards and got that in our head, I wouldn't be talking to you right now.
Wow.
That was pretty epic scary, actually.
That's crazy.
It was on YouTube once. I tried to find it, but we have this song called Drapery Falls, but I'm not sure if it happens in that one, but that would have been quite ironic. But, that was an epic, scary moment for us,
Wow.
And then one less epic moment was when we played big gig in London, when we did the Heritage album. We had this track that was a tribute to Ronnie James Dio when he passed away. It was very kind of early Rainbow era, which is called Slither. And our bass player tried to jump up and do this rock move, jump up on the drum podium, drum riser, and he just fell, like smashing into cymbal stands. And I was looking back, what the hell is that noise? He's not playing the right notes. He's just lying there.
Oh, my.
That was pretty fun.
Did the ambulance have to come?
No, it was fine. He got a bit bruised, but it was kind of like, he's not doing that anymore.
I guess so.
Jumping around too much. He has his own riser now on this tour, actually. So he has his bass riser. So see how that goes.
Oh, boy. Do you got to wire him up or something so he doesn't fall?
That's a good idea. Yeah. I think it'll be fine. It's quite big, yeah.
Awesome.
He got stairs up to it as well. So.
Well, I hope you guys have an awesome tour. And before we stop here, I'd just like you to give a shout out to anyone that you'd like and let us know where your merchandise can be purchased and where everyone can see you while you're out on tour.
Yeah, if you want to buy some merchandise or albums, Nuclear Blast is our label, but also you can go to O-Merch. You can also go to O-Merch, which is our merchandise company, and you can find both albums and CDs and vinyls and T-shirts and hoodies and stuff there if you're interested. And we're coming to the States in February, so hope to see you on the tour.
I know, you'll be in New York, actually, in February, I saw.
Yeah, we're playing 2 nights in New York, so looking forward to that.
Awesome. Well, maybe we can get down there and meet up with you guys and hang out in the tour bus.
Sure. Look, give us a shout. And
All right.
we'll drink some beers.
Yeah, we can drink some beers, man. That'll be cool.
Definitely.
All right, I'm going to ask you to do a shout-out for the radio station, and I'll tell you what you need to say. Say your name, the band name, and you're tuned in to the Thunderhead show on MetalDevastationRadio.com, where metal reigns supreme.
Hi, guys. I'm Fredrik Åkesson from the band Opeth, and you're tuned in to the Thunderhead show on MetalDevastationRadio.com, where metal reigns supreme.